Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzon. Here are the stories we're tracking for you at this time. Flying foreign flags on Nigerian sovereign soil is a treasonable offense. Minister of Defense tells protesters, saying flying Russian flags in parts of the north. Police arrest suspect. Kaduna and Zaria metropolis remain deserted following imposition of curfew over mass looting in ongoing end bad governance demonstrations. Similar order enforced in parts of Plateau and other states. And Minister of the Niger Delta Affairs, Abubakar Momo, says the Niger Delta Development Commission forensic audit report initiated by past administration has not been found since he assumed office. Question is, where is the forensic report? Let's kick off the tracking of the polity with the latest revelation by the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Engineer Abubakar Momo, that the forensic audit of the Niger Delta Development Commission carried out by the immediate past administration cannot be found. It says since assumption of office 11 months ago, efforts to get the audited report by him or his ministry has been unsuccessful. Engineer Momo, who spoke on our breakfast program, The Morning Brief, however, promises to inform Nigerians on the outcome of the forensic audit report when found. The former President Muhammadu Buhari had in 2019 ordered a forensic audit of operations of the NDDC from 2001 to 2019, and in September 2021, the audited report to probe alleged financial misappropriation was submitted to the then president after about 6 trillion naira was said to have been doled out to the NDDC between 2001 and 2019 with no much to show for it.
That audit report was released to government long before we came to this administration came in. And we have been asking for the report in order to implement some of the measures that were stated there. But for me as a minister, that report is still not with us. And we have asked for it. We've not been able to trace that very report. And I've also reported at higher level that this very report that was released even before this administration came in, we've not been able to see it. So I guess people who were in administration before us, they will be in a better position. When I say we don't fight the report, it is not that some of the highlights of the report are not known. We know some of the highlights on the report, but the report itself, I expected that when I took over, the report will be found within the ministry. But I asked both permanent secretary and those that were there, and they claimed that they have been asking for the report, and they've not been able to see the report. And some of the decisions that were taken at that very time, they are also being gradually implemented today, even without the report. You talk about NDDC being a cesspool of corruption and the rest of them. I will agree with you to some extent that before now, the NDDC has been a cesspool of corruption. And that's why when we took over, we gave a marching order. Having listened to Mr. President and the Mr. President directing on what to do, we gave a marching order that some measures must be taken to address most of the issues that are not well conducted in the Niger Delta Development Affairs. And today, you can agree with me that Niger Delta Development Commission, as it is today, is completely different from what it was in the past. You cannot have a Niger Delta that will invite people to commission projects, legacy projects that will touch on the life of the people of Niger Delta. But before now, it has never been like that. I'm sure in the recent time, you also watch the commissioning of so many projects that will touch on the life of the people. For instance, the Okitipupa electricity project. These are communities, about 5 to 7 local governments that were out of the national grid. And when we came on board, Mr. President directed that all those projects that were built and have not been completed should be completed.
All right, that's the Minister for Niger Delta Affairs. So let's bring you up to speed. What is going on right now as far as the protest is concerned? But first, we'll take you to the briefing by the national security briefing by the Chief of Defense Staff right there in the nation's capital, as well as other chiefs, including the IGP.
Security agencies, members of the media, good morning, and thank you for this privilege, sir. Well, first, I want to assure all Nigerians that we are aware of some of the challenges and the hardships that the country is going through, and Nigerians, the ordinary Nigerians are going through right now. And we are also fully aware of every Nigerian's constitutional right to participate in peaceful protest. However, looking back at what has happened in the past few days, it is very clear to every peace-loving and patriotic Nigerian that these protests are no longer what they were purported to be. Instead, it's very clear to all that the protests have been hijacked by criminal elements and other groups that do not mean well for the country. I want to remind all Nigerians that while it is a constitutional right to participate in peaceful protest, it is also an offense and a crime to engage in disorder, violence, and chaos. And it is also the responsibility of the armed forces and other security agencies to ensure that violence, disorder, and chaos do not prevail, and will ensure that this does not happen. So I appeal to all well-meaning and peace-loving Nigerians to give peace a chance, to go back and give dialogue a chance, and let the problems be resolved peacefully. Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief has addressed the nation. He has assured all that all the grievances and challenges and the complaints are being addressed. And I can assure Nigerians that a lot is being done by the government to address these complaints and these grievances. So let us give peace a chance. Let us go back and allow dialogue to take place and let the problems be resolved gradually. We coming out, or Nigerians coming out to participate in violence, destruction, and looting cannot solve the problem. Will never solve the problem. It's going to only aggravate it and make it worse. So let us go back, desist from this protest, desist from perpetrating violence and disorder and chaos. Let us go back and give this a chance and allow the federal government to implement the policies that will eventually address all these grievances and complaints.
So that briefing is ongoing in the nations at the defense headquarters. The Chief of Army Staff, the Chief of Defense Staff, the IGP, literally all the retinue of security chiefs are there to make sure that they bring us up to speed as to how they are characterizing and their response to the latest development as far as the protest, as well as those who hijacked the protest is concerned. As soon as we get more details, we'll let you know on this particular one. Let's also tell you some of the other latest development we're tracking at this time concerning the End Bad Governance protest. Offices and markets in Kaduna and Zaria metropolis cities are now deserted following the 24-hour curfew imposed by government in the wake of the breakout of the violence in the two cities. The State Security Council, chaired by Governor Ubasani, imposed a curfew when the End Bad Governance protest in Kaduna took a new twist in Kaduna and Zaria after hoodlums disguised as protesters seized the opportunity to loot shops as well as government and private offices. Meanwhile, residents of Kaduna metropolis and Zaria are struggling with the 24-hour curfew, which they say has affected their daily income. We can also tell you that a similar scenario plays out for residents of Jos North local government area after the state governor, Caleb Moftuang, imposed a 24-hour curfew to curb escalation of violence. Let's bring it back here in Lagos. Here in Lagos, not much is happening with the protests as of the last time we checked, as just security agencies are seen mounting their posts to maintain law and order, as protesters haven't been seen yet at the Ganifa Army Park in Ojota. That's earlier today. That's on one hand in Lagos. So you can see the aerial picture of Ojota. That's the Ghanaian Army Park to your right, and you can count almost over 10 security vehicles, RRS and the police, as well as the neighborhood corps, all mounting their position to ensure that there's law and order and there's a free flow of traffic. So as soon as we get an update as to what's going on in Ojota, we'll let you know. Now we leave Ojota, let's head to the nation's capital, Abuja, where the roads in the Abuja are gradually becoming busy again, where protesters are seem to have backed down on the demonstration. As only the former country director of Action Aid Nigeria will understand, Ms. Obi and Hawa Mustafa are holding a sit-out at the Moshood Abiola Stadium. The two women vow to continue with the sit-out until the expiration of the 10 days, the duration of the demonstration. Now, security personnel at the stadium disallow anyone who wants to protest or journalists who want to cover the protest from staying outside the stadium. They say they are enforcing the court order which confines the protesters inside that particular stadium. And so there are a couple of things happening at the same time. We can tell you also that the CDS has responded to the people that were hoisting flags yesterday in parts of the north, and is saying it's a treasonable offense to hoist flag anywhere on the sovereign state of Nigeria, and some people have also been arrested. So at this time, let me bring in my guest as we begin this conversation. First up, I have Captain Bishop Johnson, who is a retired U.S. Army captain. He joins us via Zoom. Captain, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
We also have, you're welcome, sir. We also have Ahmad Rabiu, who is a former Commissioner for Commerce and Industry in Kano State. He joins us from our Kano studio. Mr. Rabiu, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
So, Mr. Rabiu, let me start with you before I go to the captain. Just give us an update of how things are playing out in Kano at the moment, because as you remember, Kano was a very, I don't know whether it's still a hot spot, because that's where we saw a lot of looting and people, hoodlums, taking advantage of the situation.
Well, thank you so very much for having me. It is definitely...
Go ahead, please.
Okay, because your mouth was moving, I thought you were... Okay. Kano has been known as center of commerce of our great country, has been center of hustle and bustling. A lot of activities taking place all the time, almost 24 hours a day. And when there are issues that make people themselves to withdraw, close their shops, or close markets, it inflicts a lot of pains on the entire community. We are a trading community, the center of commerce, not only for northern Nigeria, but also the hub for the trade in sub-Saharan Africa entirely. So we have quite a large number of visitors coming in and going out, which creates a living job at all times for our youth and women and everybody. Since the curfew was slammed, or since the protest commenced, it has affected life all over, in all, if you like, spheres of our lives. It is sad. It's caused a lot of loss in economics and also our societal well-being generally. But to the glory of God, in the last 3 days, things have calmed down, though there are still pockets of persons trying to create havoc, and it has been roundly mentioned. Some elements of politics have come into our own scheme, and the major disturbing issues for the protest nationwide is the singular fact that you cannot pin out the organizers to say this is coming from A or B or C angle, so that you can have some point of contact. And that is why mob actions, as we have seen also happening in the UK, once it is a mob action, because that's, to me, what it is looking like. If there is nobody claiming to be in charge and leading the protest and reachable, accessible, then definitely it is just merely a mob action, and therefore anything can happen. So, to the glory of God, however, in the last 3 days, things have come down, and even today, some of the major markets have been opened to replenish, because the smaller markets that were along the major streets where the protesters gathered have been looted, and it is really sad. So Kano is getting back on stream, and things are getting into some shape.
All right, let's take it back to Captain. Captain, we just, because right now as we speak, the security chiefs are briefing from CDS to COAS to the chief we saw is the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, and he just gave his own remark as far as that is concerned. We have all the security top echelon giving their own remark as well because of the situation we found ourselves. This particular protest, given how it built up, so what I mean is, it's not a surprise that a protest was coming. So there were many rhetorics and narrative and even conspiracy theories as to how things will play out. Now, this is our reality. On one hand, we have peaceful protesters. On the other hand, people are taking advantage and looting. On the other hand, some people are calling for a change of government and hoisting flags of another nationality, another nation on our sovereign soil. Whose failure is this?
Well, there is plenty blame to go around. Protests, particularly peaceful protests, right of the people to assemble and express themselves is allowed under our laws and under international laws. However, those who are organizing peaceful protests also share some level of responsibility in helping security agencies to ensure that the protest is peaceful. Now, having said that, I think the larger proportion of responsibility to ensure that protests are peaceful resides with the Nigerian police, which is the lead agency on internal security. It's their responsibility to ensure that whatever protest is ongoing is peaceful. The violence, the destruction, and the vandalism stand condemned, and those who are hoisting, the flag of another country on the sovereign soil of Nigeria, that is also condemned. However, the police should go after all those who are responsible for all those anomalies, get them apprehended, and let the law take its course. But they should not suppress those who are actually protesting peacefully. Those people should be protected, and they should be allowed to protest peacefully and express whatever challenge or the complaints that they are raising. Also, look, the reason why I have always said that this protest should be allowed to continue is that we don't need to kick the can down the road again. This protest that is ongoing right now is as a result of the protest that was, the NSAS protest that was suppressed violently. One thing about these agitations is that unless the issues raised in these agitations are addressed, you run the risk of those issues raising their ugly head again in the future if you don't actually address them. So what I'm saying is that if the protest is going to end, the government should create a channel of dialogue in which the leaders of these people who are leading these protests and the government will sit down and look at some of the complaints that they have raised. The ones that the government can address now, the government should be honest about it and see what they can do in addressing those ones. The ones they cannot address, they should equally let them know, look, these ones, your complaints are legitimate, but these ones cannot be addressed now, and here are the reasons why we can't address it. However, if you have a better option on how we can address them now, please suggest. That is why we are all dialoguing, so that everybody can put heads together and figure out how we solve the problems or the complaints that are being raised in this protest.
All right, let me take it to Mr. Rabiu. Mr. Rabiu, one of the concerns and one of the observations we've also noticed is the fact that the violence is predominantly in the north. We've had views across board. What's your own take?
The truth about it is that a lot of things have gone wrong in governance in the entire region. Life was good several years ago when we were small kids growing up. We saw how communities were living peacefully with each other and how there was a possibility, there was hope for everybody. And that is why at that time, the communities were living in peace and there was prosperity. For instance, if you can just look back, there was the time when you have the cattle rearers having conflicts with the farmers. That you have the herders and farmers clashes. And then cattle rustling. And then gradually other senior crime set in. And the worst situation, our roads remain unkempt all over the place, moving from one end of the north to the other, and especially the north occupying the largest, almost two-thirds of the land space in Nigeria. And with what has been there that had been abused roundly, the economic prosperity was kind of eroded. And therefore, you have very large number of unemployed persons. You have also large number of persons out of school. You have all the challenges that really will make a person to be stupid and mad that are inherent. And on account of that, what we have, you find, especially in this particular case, the labor went on strike. It was organized labor. I was opportune to be a member of the Nation Minimum Wage Committee. And when the organized labor came in, we knew who was going on strike. They even shut the national grid. In spite of that, life was good. Everything went well. But what happened? This is a protest that has no visible, identifiable, accessible organizers. And that is what caused the issue. For all the things that have happened in the north, here and there, like use of this Russian flag. We had had in the past, when the IPOB, for instance, was also hosting the Israeli flags. And when people are trying to come out with their grievances, I'm not sure if really all those you see, the very young people, most of them, I think, below the age of 20, and they are carrying the Russian flag. Do they know the implications? And because this is happening because there are really no organizers. And I believe what perhaps government need to pay a lot more attention on is the issue of communication. Government could change anything, but there must, in the first instance, a transitional arrangement. The second, while the government is articulating a position, it is also carrying along the entire citizenry, so that those who have anything to say will say it, and government will look at it and also appreciate the statistics be reeled out to know that if a policy is enthroned, how many people will be affected, and what are the likely things to come up from them. Most of those folks you have said are out of school, they are unemployed, they have so many. So at the moment, look at the wanton looting. The fact that there is looting in the United Kingdom as we speak does not really give justification for us, because we are a better people as far as I'm concerned. A lot more informed, largely, mainly religious, either a Muslim or a Christian. Therefore, we are told, do not harm an innocent person. If you have any grievances against anybody, go to the court of law. We have all these things in place. It has happened in the north regrettably because level of poverty in the north is much higher than it is in most parts of the south, especially the southwest, for instance, because there are means of earning a living.
All right, Mr. Rabia, I have to butt in at this point. And Captain also, I will just, let's hold on for a bit. We'll get back to that briefing by the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa. Let's take a listen to him.
People-centrism in everything that we do. Now it's time for question and answer. Please, I will advise that we go straight to the point. No double-barrel questions. If they ask a question that has been treated, please, let's move on so that we can finish and go back to our normal duties. You can carry on. So
please introduce yourself, the media you represent, and direct your question to either the CBS, service chiefs, Inspector General of Police, or any of the head of security agencies on the high table.
All right, appears the CDS has actually given his remark, taking questions. So let me come to you, Captain. I wish I heard what you said, but let me piggyback from what our guest in Kano studio, Mr. Rabiu, said. There's a new trend which government is finding difficult to handle, and we need your expertise as a law enforcement officer, even outside our shores, where there's more sophistication. From NSAS to the one in Kenya to this one, the young people have decided to write their own rules. We do not want to be led by anyone. We are leaderless. Should that stop them from having their voices heard? How should the government approach them?
Right. Right. Actually, I don't think they are saying that they are leaderless. I think what they are saying is that, look, they are frustrated. There's frustration in the land. Just ordinary commodities that people used to be able to afford before, they can't afford them now. And it's not unique to Nigeria. This is something that is happening pretty much all over the globe. Most countries are experiencing, inflation that has affected cost of, food items. If you are following the U.S. Presidential election campaigns, you see that the issue of inflation and the high cost of living, they're also being talked about. So what the government, I think, should do here in Nigeria is that, look, don't forcefully suppress the protests. Identify those who are seizing on the opportunity to perpetrate violence and vandalism and all whatnot. Get them arrested and get them prosecuted in accordance with the law. Now, those who are protesting legitimately and peacefully, also identify them. Their leaders should come out now with whatever those their key points are. And the government on its part should create a channel for discussion. Let them meet. Government has a responsibility to explain to them what is actually going on. Because I don't believe that Nigerians are under the illusion that President Tinubu will solve the issues that have been plaguing this country for more than 2 decades now as a result of bad policies that we have taken in the past. I don't think they're under the illusion that he will solve all those problems in 14 months. But what he can do, because they don't have the information that he has, right? What he can do is for them to sit down on a round table, because at the end of the day, most of all these things have to be achieved on a round table. Explain to them where the country was when he came into office, the things that he has done, the things that he is trying to do. But also understand with them that, look, although he has done those things and he is trying to do other things, but the reality is that, look, we used to buy a bag of rice 7,000 naira before now. Now a bag of rice is more than 70,000 naira now. We used to buy a liter of petrol at 195 naira before. Now is about 670 to 690 naira now. We used to pay transportation to wherever we go to before for, say, 5,000 naira. Now it has increased. So explain to them all those things and ask them for their own input.
All right.
Look, I understand the pain, but what do we do now? I need your advice. What do we do now to bring down the cost of living and reduce the cost of all these things that you are complaining about?
All right, I must thank you, retired U.S. Army Captain, Captain Bishop Johnson. Thank you so much for bringing your insights on this particular one. Mr. Ahmed Rabiu, former Commissioner for Commerce and Industry, who joined us from Kano studio. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and for your insight. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's also tell you that just before we go, Femi Falana, who had criticized the senior advocate of Nigeria, must add, who had criticized the president's speech for falling short in addressing the concerns of the protesters, has now written to say hoisting this flag and calling for a coup on the sovereign soil of Nigeria is a treasonable offense according to the Criminal Code Section 41. I just need to bring you that update. Thank you so much for your time and, of course, your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Uzanga. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics.